Hey everybody, Ryan and Tom here. This week at SecureIt, we're talking about how to implement CradleGrid into your workbench.
Yeah, we're building a lot of gun rooms right now, and we get a lot of phone calls from people with questions. We do help as far as providing design work. If you give us the dimensions, we can draw up the space for you, and a lot of it comes down to the workbench. How do you implement the workbench into your room? Because you do want to have, if you've got the space, a work surface in your gun room. It's extremely convenient. And people always ask, do I put CradleGrid around or above the bench? And we're like, absolutely. It gives you really good flexible storage. We've got our bench set up here. We're just going to kind of go through how we've got it set up, what our thought process is, and give you guys ideas on how to incorporate this in your home system.
So this is our setup on our workbench. Tom, why do we use CradleGrid here?
The biggest reason for CradleGrid and a workbench, as far as I'm concerned, is what I'm going to call visual organization. Everything, you can see it all, it's right here. Everything is ergonomically easy to get to.
Yeah, and it's really great too because you can customize the setup to fit your needs. So, right. I mean, looking at this, tell us why it's set up this way.
Well, this kind of ended up setting up this way out of what we were doing. We're doing a bunch of scope swaps. We're trying out a bunch of different optics on a couple different rifles, just really having fun with it. I've got some ARs up here that I'm swapping around. I tend to go to the range. This is my favorite lower. It's got a Geissele trigger. It's set up for me. I'll swap in the upper that I want depending on what we're doing that day, if we're going out for whether it's long distance or plinking. Mm-hmm. And then we go right into all the bins and all the actual working parts of what we do here.
Yeah, and now I noticed you have all the cleaning products in this bin. Why is that?
If anybody's ever had a bottle of oil like this or clean, but that tips over in your storage and leaks slowly, you know it makes one heck of a mess. I like the smell of hoppies, my wife doesn't. But when using the bins, if something should fall over and leak, everything is contained within the bin. And whether I'm on my workbench here, in a gun cabinet, wherever, whenever I've got oils or any liquids I'm storing, I've always got everything in a bin simply for that reason.
Yeah, and now looking at the bins, it looks like we have a lot of different sizes. So in your experience, what are the sizes useful for?
Whatever you've got, you find the bin for it. Sometimes I find the closest bin and I put stuff in it. But certain areas, like cleaning brushes, I like to use a small bin because I like the handles to stick out. It's easier to grab, and sometimes I've only got one free hand. I've got bolts, rifle bolts in a medium bin just because they fit. Now in the large bins, I've got a M9 and a handgun in here. What these large bins allow you to do is you can have a handgun in various states of disassembly or maintenance, frame in one side, parts in another, do your work, keep everything in the bin. If you're not finished, load everything back in the bin. If you've got one of our cabinets or a true safe or CradleGrid within your safe, go ahead and put the bin back in your safe or back on your wall. Everything is organized and together. In this case, you can secure it in a cabinet. When you want to finish up the work, you go back in, just grab the bin, go to your bench, and you've got everything is right there. You're never going to lose any part of a gun or have a deal with trying to organize different parts of the same handgun.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. Now moving down here, tell us a little bit about the storage trays, what we're using them for.
I've got these set up right now. This is our reloading area. Our bench is big enough to where we just set up a reloading station on this side. I'm using it mainly for all the bits and pieces kind of that I go to for reloading. There's some things you seem like you're always grabbing. They're just there for almost as a catch-all for convenience. I use a tray for storing dies. We've got a pretty small setup. We've got a limited number of calibers that we reload. I've got Redding gear here. Redding is down the street from us. They make really good equipment. There's some other good brands out there. We really like the guys at Redding. And I just use it to organize from dies. I've got some casings here, powder tools. I actually mounted a powder dispenser on a tray upside down, and we took the same tray and drilled holes in it as a screwdriver holder. And it's all about convenience. This whole system is about standing in one place and having everything at your fingertips.
So when someone's at home looking at this and they're thinking, how am I going to use CradleGrid? What can we tell them? What do we do here?
Well, what we did with this wall, we did the wall out in panels. Now, in this case, I've got two large panels. The panels run down below the wall. That's what we had. We just put everything up and slid the benching up against it. Another way to do that would be use a small panel with a large one on top, or even just a row of large panels. It comes down to where do you want louvers ergonomically. I like in a workbench to have them right down to the bench, but then if you got the space to go up, it's nice to have rifles. I mean, if you're into a display and storage, the rifles look really good over a bench.
Yeah, you can kind of do a hybrid system where it looks nice with the display, then you've got all the parts and pieces down below.
Right, yeah, I've got all my books, reloading books, all the gunsmithing stuff on that side. We just keep it there. Again, it's quickly available.
Something I want to quickly point out is all the panels are 17¼ inches wide. The small panel is 16 inches and the large panel is 36 inches. So when you're drawing out your gun room and you have a workbench in there, just keep in mind the spacing and the dimensions of the panels.
Yeah, we've got a video be done. It's in editing right now where we actually build this whole space. And we take you through the whole process from designing it to laying it out to actually installing the whole system. It's in final editing and just kind of cleaning it up.
So I think everyone's bench is going to be a little bit different, but what about this bench? What is this?
Well, we made this bench. When we built the room, we used hickory for a lot of the trim work around the panels, and we had some plywood with a laminate surface on it. So we basically took all the scrap wood we had and built the bench. And it actually came out. This thing weighs about 150, 200 pounds. It's heavy enough so you can work on it. It's not really going to move. If you're looking for home benches, the best surface is a maple laminate, like a butcher block top. That's what the military uses. It doesn't mar a gun. In this case, we've got a finished surface. We wanted this to be kind of a showroom. We made it a little nicer. In a true hard-working armory, I'd have a maple top. You can work on it, beat the crap out of it. If it does get oils, gets stains, or starts looking messy, you can just plane it or run a belt sander on it. It'll look like brand new in 5 minutes.
So if one of our customers is looking for a workbench, what would you recommend?
If you're going to buy a bench, that's not a place to go cheap. In that a strong, heavy bench, it just works. There's so many advantages to it. We're in a couple of our large military projects now. We're being asked to supply workbenches into a whole bunch of armories, as well as some cleaning stations. What we're going to do is take those products and bring them into our retail and offer them as retail products. They're not inexpensive, but they're workbenches that have 800-pound load capacity, 2-inch thick butcher block top, all steel construction. I don't have pricing on them yet. I'm not sure exactly when we're going to have them available. Sometime in the next probably 6 weeks. But a cheap Home Depot workbench probably is not going to work out very well. If you go to some of the gunsmithing websites, they've got benches and plans for benches. Some of them are really, really, really nice. We don't recommend one. There's a lot of good ones out there. But just make sure you get a bench that's got some mass to it and got some load capacity, because you just don't want something flimsy for workbench. It'll drive you nuts.
So if you guys need help designing your gun room, just send us an email. We'd be happy to help you.
Yeah, the system, it's simple, it's modular, it's easy to expand, and you can simply start off with panels on the wall and just slowly add what you need to build the system that works for you.
Now, we have a lot of content planned for the next couple of weeks, but if you guys have any topics that you want to see us cover, send us an email or leave a comment below. I think that's all for this week.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
See you next time.